if you have any questions, request you to please make a note of them, and we can discuss at the end. Because I just don't want to get deviated, in the demo session itself, based on some questions. So whatever the questions you have, please make a note of it, and we'll address all of the questions, at the end. Okay. And if you have any audio issues and all, request you to just disconnect and connect again. Uh, Mostly it will be resolved by then. Okay. So, okay. So hope you are able to see the screen now, where there is a list of points, within the, it's part of
Yes.
the agenda. Okay.
Yes.
So for today's session, the agenda will be what is performance testing, LoadRunner architecture, because LoadRunner is one of the performance testing tool. So the LoadRunner architecture will be discussed, and we will also see a small practical example of how to record a script using LoadRunner tool, and how the code is generated, and how to understand, the code. Then we'll discuss about the LoadRunner course content. What are the topics that are included? How long the sessions will run, and all those things. And finally, at the end of this, you can post all your questions either through the chat option available, or you can post the question directly. I suggest, if you are okay to, post the question directly, just speak up, and we can have a conversation, so that others can also understand the question. Okay. If not, you can also post the question in the chat window. Anything is fine for me. So with the first, any queries as of now? I hope all are good with the points mentioned just now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So before we start understanding what is performance testing, I would like to present a slide which explains about the software testing itself. Okay, because within software testing we have a functional testing on one side, and the non-functional testing on the other side. Okay, so what do you mean by functional testing? How is it different from non-functional testing? Functional testing is all about testing the functionality of the application. Okay, for example, if you have a Gmail application, if I ask you to test whether the login is working fine or not, how would you validate? You first enter a valid username, and then you enter the valid password, and then click on login or sign in. If the user is able to log in successfully after entering valid username and valid password, that means you are kind of testing the functionality, right? So so functional testing is all about testing the core functionality of the application. Okay. And within the functional testing, we have some different types of testing, like regression testing, integration testing, and so on. What are the different tools that we use for functional testing? Automation. If you see automation, we have Selenium, UFT, right? Selenium, UFT. One second. Uh, okay. So we have Selenium, UFT, which are automation tools, automation regression tools, right? So coming to the non-functional testing, how is it different from functional testing? In functional testing, we will be testing the core functionality. But when it comes to non-functional testing, okay, it is all about testing the non-functional aspects like performance, security, usability, etc. So within non-functional testing, we have the performance testing. The performance testing comes under the non-functional testing space. So as part of functional testing, okay, the user focuses on the on testing the functionality part. But whereas a performance tester will primarily focus on the performance of the application. Okay, the primary focus of the performance tester is to check the performance of the application. Okay, how fast the application is responding. Okay, how fast how fast the user, if you click a link or if you click a button, how fast it is navigating from one page to another page. Okay, so the performance tester, the performance testing, is all about, okay, checking the performance of the application in terms of speed, responsiveness, and also stability. Also, how stable is your application? Okay, so within performance testing, we have different tools again, like LoadRunner, Jmeter, Gatling, NeoLoad, etc. There are different tools in the market, but the most widely used tools are LoadRunner and Jmeter. Okay, LoadRunner and Jmeter are the most widely used tools in the market. Okay, so for example, if I would like to just give a small understanding of the functional testing and the non-functional testing. Let's say this is a sample application. Okay, so if I ask you to test the functionality of login, what would you do? You just enter some username here, isn't it? You just enter some username and password, and you click on login button. Okay, what happened? The user successfully navigated to home page. That means the login functionality is working fine. So the functional tester will concentrate on this particular aspect. Okay, whether everything is working fine or not in terms of functionality. For example, if you click a flights button over here on the left hand side, there is a flights button. If you click on flights button, to which page it has to redirect? Is it redirecting to the correct page or not? So the functional tester will focus on that, and and some of the other UI aspects also, like whether the text is coming properly or not, and all those things. But whereas the performance tester, okay, so once you enter the username and password, once you enter the username and password again, and if you log in, the performance tester, the primary task of the performance tester is to analyze how fast it navigated to the next page, or how fast the user navigated to the home page. So once you enter username and password and click on sign in button, how much time it has taken for the user to navigate, okay, to the home page. That's where the performance tester is more interested. That's the primary task. Okay, so on a whole, the performance testing is all about checking the speed, responsiveness, and stability of the application. Speed means how fast the user is able to navigate from one page to another page. Responsiveness means, how fast the page is loading. Okay, some of the pages, you might have seen so many times, the pages load slowly. Some of the pages will keep on loading forever. I'm sure most of you might have faced this issue at some point of time, isn't it? So, uh, in simple terms, the performance testing is all about checking the performance, that is in terms of speed, in terms of responsiveness, in terms of stability of that particular application. Okay, so let's take another example, like a normal, simple, generic example. So if you take a lift, okay, we all know the lift, right? Okay, so let's say one person, let's say, enter into the lift and then press number 3. Let's say the person is on the ground floor. He just entered into the lift and just pressed number 3, that is third floor button. So what happens? The lift door should close and the lift should go to third floor and stop. Okay, so what is that all about? There, the user is checking the functionality. That means when you press 3, is it going to third floor or not? Okay, that's what the functional tester will check. But when it comes to the performance testing, what we have to do, if one killer person to or for the lift to go to third floor, how much time it is taking for the lift to go to third floor is all about the performance. Okay, so one more important point I would like to add. When it comes to performance, you cannot test the performance with one user. Okay, that means it's not a good idea to test the performance with one user. So for example, in the same lift, if one user goes to third floor, uh, I mean, that's not called as performance testing altogether. Okay, that's not how you analyze the performance. How do you analyze the performance? When, let's say that lift capacity is eight members. Okay, the lift capacity is 8 members. So when 8 people are on board, that means when 8 people enter into the lift and press 3, that means the third floor, then you have to see how much time it is taking to go to third floor. So when it comes to performance, there should be some load on that particular, if we talk in terms of software, there should be some amount of load that we have to apply. Okay, normally if one person is going to third floor, that doesn't make any sense, right? If 8 people are within the lift, that is a max capacity, and then you have to check the performance. Okay, how much time it is taking. Same thing with respect to the application, software applications also. If you are testing the performance user, that doesn't make sense. When 100 people, 200, when I say people or users, they both, you know, correlate. So when 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, or max number of people access the application, the software application, then how it is responding, how fast the application is responding. Okay, how fast a user or is able to navigate from one page to another page. So then you have to analyze the performance. That means there should be some amount of load. So performance testing is all about checking the performance of an application by applying some load. Without load, you cannot analyze the performance practically, right? So hope you understood, what is performance testing. Okay, in general, we haven't discussed about any textbook definition. Okay, so far we haven't discussed about any textbook definition. We are just trying to understand the concept of performance testing. Okay, so you can make a note of it also. So it's a simple one liner. Performance testing is all about checking the performance of an application by applying some load. Okay, and you can also mention checking the performance in terms of speed, responsiveness, and stability. Okay, those are three keywords that we can use as part of performance testing definition. Okay, so one second. Okay, so this is about software testing and what is performance testing. Now there is one more slide. If you don't do any performance testing for the software. Okay, so here if you see, if performance testing is not conducted, then applications might face problems like slowness, pages loading forever, inconsistency, and may further result in business loss. How many of you remember, maybe in 2014 or 15, I don't exactly remember the year, but that was the first time the e-commerce website, okay, the famous e-commerce website, they announced a big sale for the first time. Now we are seeing those big sales frequently, like big season sale, big sale, whatever it is, festival sale. So on those days, in those days, that was the first time the big sale was announced by the e-commerce vendor. And then when let's say they announced, like, a big sale starting on 12 p.m. so and so date. So on that day, what happened, as soon as the big sale started, so many people, okay, tried to access the e-commerce website, and they tried purchasing or buying some of the items. So then what happened, due to sudden increase in the users, in the user volume, that due to sudden increase in terms of users, the number of users suddenly increased, and the e-commerce website crashed. I don't know how many of you remember this. Okay, so what happened then, there were more number of people accessing the application than the expected load. Okay, they expected 500, but let's say the number of users turned out to be 5000. Then the application crashed. Okay, so for that reason, you have to do the performance testing. Without performance testing, if you go ahead and deploy into production, or if you release into market, the application might face some issues. Okay, and it will definitely impact the financial part also, financial part also. Okay, so let's say you are accessing one application, it is very slow. What will you do? You will bear for one time, you will bear for second time, third time you will say, okay, that's enough. Let me switch to another application which provides same features, obviously, right? Right? So that's the reason no business person will be okay to lose customers, because it will directly impact the financial part. Okay, so if performance testing is not conducted, then the applications might face problems like slowness, pages loading forever, inconsistency, and may further result in business loss as well. Okay, what is the goal of performance testing? Okay, I've mentioned one point here. The main goal of performance testing is to identify performance bottlenecks. Bottlenecks means issues only. Normally, we write issues. The goal of performance testing is to find performance issues. But in performance testing terminology, we mention issues as bottlenecks. Okay. So the primary goal of performance tester is to find performance issues rather than finding functional bugs. Rather than finding functional bugs. Functional bugs will be taken care by functional testers or the manual testers. We need not worry about the functional bugs much, they will take care of it. After fixing all those functional bugs only, the performance testing will start actually. Okay, so no need to worry about functional bugs. Our primary goal should always be to find out the performance issues like application slowness, application not responding, page not loading, those kind of issues. Okay, so by now I hope you got some idea about what is performance testing, why it is very important. Okay, and why every application has to undergo the performance testing phase before getting released into the market. Okay, so that is about performance testing. And within this performance testing space, we have so many tools in the market like LoadRunner, Jmeter, okay, Nearload, Gatling, and all. But the major, most widely used tools are LoadRunner and Jmeter. LoadRunner and Jmeter. So, because this is LoadRunner sessions, so I will be explaining you about the LoadRunner architecture today. Okay, very important in terms of understanding how it works, what are the different components involved, and all those things. Okay, so okay, let me open a slide and go here. And okay, so the architecture diagram of LoadRunner we will derive by posting some questions to ourselves. Okay, so let's say there is one bank application. Let's take any application. Let's say it's a bank website. Now, if I ask you to do a performance testing for the bank application with 500 users. Users means the people who access the application. So in performance testing terminology, we call them as users. So if I ask you to do a performance testing of a bank application with 500 users, how would you do it? What is your approach? Will you bring 500 people? Will you bring 500 people and give them 500 laptops and ask them to access the bank application and perform some actions simultaneously? Will you be able to do that? Anyone? Yes or no?
No.
No. I mean, it's possible, but it's possible for 500 people, but it includes, it involves huge amount of effort, funding, budget, and all those things. But let's say if I ask you to do the same type of performance testing with 5,000 users, now will you be able to bring 5,000 people? No, it is not possible. So what should you do? For that reason, the load runner has provided a component for us, which we call it as load generator. This load generator is a component, okay, which will simulate the virtual users for us. Okay, which will simulate the virtual users. What will these virtual users do? They actually mimic the human actions. So whatever the human user does, right, the same actions, the virtual user also will perform. Okay, so in fact, the load generator is also a machine, but a highly configured machine. Why highly configured machine? Because it has to support okay, some number of users. It has to generate some number of users. See, every one load generator machine cannot generate 1 lakh users, 2 lakhs users like that. No, one load generator machine can generate some number of users based on its configuration. Like, let's say the RAM is 32 GB. Okay, so based on that RAM, let's say it can generate 3000 users, 5000 users, like that, depending on the configuration. We will discuss in detail in our upcoming session, in our upcoming sessions, like on what basis, okay, a machine, we can say a machine can generate 3000 or 5000 or the exact number. Okay, but for now, let's understand that there is a component called load generator, which is used to simulate the virtual users for us. So instead of bringing the real people to do the performance testing, we are simulating the virtual users with the help of load generator component. Okay, why we have to simulate virtual users? Because why we have to simulate 3000 virtual users? As I said few minutes ago, load testing or the performance testing cannot be done with with one user. If you do a performance testing with one user, it cannot be counted as a performance testing at all. Okay, the performance testing has to be done by applying some load. What do you mean by load? Load means some number of users. Okay, who will generate? Load generator will generate. Okay, so hope you are clear with this component. Okay, then okay, let's say the virtual users are ready. I mean, let's say the load generator is able to simulate the virtual users. That's fine, we have that component ready.
I'm sorry to
Now,
interrupt you. I have one question over here.
yes, please.
For load generator, every load generator, is there any capacity for the users, like thousands or 500, or it depends upon the organization level?
No, it depends on the configuration of the load generator machine. Okay, like the RAM and all those things. And at the same time, it also depends on the protocol that we use. Okay, there is something called protocol. So
Mm-hmm.
based on that protocol and based on the configuration of the load generator machine, we can clearly tell like how many users it can simulate. So so to discuss in detail about those things, maybe we have to wait for the upcoming sessions, because it
Sure.
needs more time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have this load generator component ready. Okay, now let's say, um, if I ask you to test, let's say, because it's a bank application, if I ask you to test some important critical scenario. Generally, what are the critical scenarios for a bank application? Transfer money, download bank statement, right? Paying credit card bill. These are the important critical scenarios, right? So every critical scenario should be performance tested. Okay, so let's say one of the critical scenario is transfer money. Okay, one of the critical scenario is transfer money. So for transfer money, what are the sequence of steps that you do, that you implement or that you run? First, you will launch the application, isn't it? Launch bank application. You want to transfer money. What will you do? You launch the bank application, then you log in, right? Then you navigate to your account, like savings account or whatever it is. Okay. Then you select a beneficiary, something like that. Select a beneficiary, then enter amount. Okay, and let's say click transfer or whatever it is, and then you log out. These are the common steps that we do for transferring money. Now, for the performance testing, if I ask you to do a performance testing for transfer money scenario, okay, so these are the steps involved. So if you want to run these steps, if you want to do a performance testing for transfer money scenario, you have to run these steps. Okay, with many users. So that means like 100 users or 200 users, they have to run these steps. Then how do you run these steps? Okay, so there should be some component for you which should allow you to record this flow, okay, or record these steps or generate a script for these steps. Okay, so that particular component is called Vugen. So Vugen is a component of LoadRunner architecture, which will allow you to record or generate the script for the flows, okay, for the critical business flows. Okay, so for every critical scenario, there will be some sequence of steps. Okay, so we have to record, okay, or we have to generate a script for those flows, okay, and be ready for execution. We have to enhance or if required and be ready for execution. So let's say we two components are ready, like load generator and Vugen. Now, when you develop all the scripts using Vugen component, when you develop all the scripts using Vugen component, now there should be some platform or component where you can upload those scripts and trigger execution, isn't it? So you have scripts ready. What will you do? You need some component where you can upload those scripts and trigger the execution. So that component is called controller or performance center. Okay, so this controller or performance center, what it does, the scripts whatever we are developing, we will upload them into controller or performance center and create scenarios, different types of scenarios, like load test, endurance test, and so on, and then we will trigger the execution. Okay, so the primary functionality of the controller or performance center component is to create scenarios, upload scripts, do all the configurations, change, make all the settings, okay, and then trigger the execution. So once the execution is done, okay, once the execution is done, so what happens? Where the execution will happen? This is one common interview question. Where the execution will happen? Can anyone tell? Based on what we have discussed so far, can anyone just guess where the
Controller.
execution exactly will happen?
Controller.
Controller.
See, controller is a component which is used to upload scripts, create scenario, and just trigger the execution. But the actual execution will happen in load generator machine, because that's the place where the users are generated and the load is applied. So what happens is, when you upload scripts from Vugen to controller, okay, when you start execution, the controller will transfer all the scripts to load generator machine and the actual execution happens here. Now, how the transfer happens? There is another component called internally, which we call it as agent process. There is a component called agent process, which will act as a bridge between controller and load generator. So I mean, transferring all the data and make communication between controller and load generator. Okay, so the agent process will take care of it. So all the scripts will be transferred to load generator machine, where, okay, and then the execution exactly happens here. Okay, where the execution happens here. Now once the execution happens, so there should be some component where or which should allow us to analyze the results. Okay, so that particular component is called analysis. So this is very important, good component, okay, which will give you so many metrics, so many graphs, okay, like graphical view, pie charts, whatever it is. Okay, so whatever the metrics that we need to analyze the performance of the application, all the important metrics will be provided by the analysis component once the execution is done. So all in all, these are the components that are part of LoadRunner architecture. Okay, because this is a demo session, I'm just giving you a brief introduction of all these components, what exactly they do. Okay, so uh, we will be implementing this practically also, like so all these components, so Vugen, controller, analysis, all these things we'll be seeing practically. Okay, so this is LoadRunner architecture. If you have any questions, please make a note of it. Don't forget to make a note of it. Okay, I can come back to this slide and explain again later. Okay, so all in all, these are the components, guys. So it's 9:34, right? Because uh, we still have to complete this sample recording and course content also, right? So I'll take all the questions at the end. So now in this slide, we have seen different components. Now, can anyone tell which is the component that I have to use for recording or generating the script? See, now my next agenda point will be sample recording of script. Now, which component I have to use for sample recording the
Fusion.
script?
Fusion, maybe.
Fusion,
Fusion.
right? Exactly. So once you install LoadRunner, Vugen controller analysis will come by default, right? So what you do is go to search and type Vugen, and it will come. This icon will come up, Vugen. Okay, just click on that, and it will automatically start the Vugen. Okay, so this component is for recording or generating the script or enhancing the script. Okay, so this is the screen. Now, what is that we are going to record? So we have just seen the sample application here, isn't it? So this is a sample application provided by Micro Focus. So so LoadRunner is owned by Micro Focus, and they have provided this sample application. So what are we going to do is we are going to record three simple steps for this sample application: launch, then login, then logout. These are the three steps that we are going to record now. Okay, and see how the code is getting generated, and then we will replay the script also. Okay, so here I just launched Vugen. Now I'll go to file, I'll click on file, new script and solution. Okay, new script and solution. So this pop-up window will appear. Okay, this pop-up window will appear. So here you have to choose the protocol. So the protocol what we have chosen here is a web HTTP HTML protocol. So all the web applications, right? So all the web applications will have mostly this protocol. We have to use this protocol for all the web applications. Okay, so now what we have to do after selecting the protocol, there are different protocols. We'll discuss later in our upcoming sessions about the protocol. But for now, what I can tell you is for the web applications, we have to choose this protocol. Okay, and then give some script name. Let's say I will give it as demo. And where do you want to save the script? That path you have to mention. Let's say I want to create a new folder. Okay, let's say I want to create a new folder. So let's say I'll create a new folder. Okay, something like this, something like let me do one thing. I'll create a new folder 2023. One second. Okay, so here I'm going to create another folder and save it. Okay, okay, so this is a folder where I'm going to save the script. D drive scripts, this folder. Okay, and this is a script name demo, and click on create. Once you click on create, the default script layout will appear. Okay, here this white screen editor, this is a code editor where you will see the recorded script or the code that got generated after recording. Okay, on the left hand side you have the solution explorer. Okay, where you have different options, like some of the options like passing test data to the script, applying some runtime settings, how you want to run the script. Okay, and just to see the recording report. Okay, and then there are different actions here which we'll discuss in detail in our upcoming sessions. Some extra files to declare some global variables and so on. Okay, so anyhow we'll discuss all those things in detail again. So for now what we are going to do, we are going to record the script. For recording the script, for recording the flow, three steps: launch, login, log off. There is an icon over here to click to start recording. Okay, so what you do, just click on that record icon, which will again uh, give another pop-up window. So here you have to choose the action. This option we'll discuss in our upcoming session again in detail. So here you have to choose the browser, like which browser you want to use for recording purpose. So you are recording the flow. Okay, so what is the browser that you want to use? Firefox, Edge, or Chrome? Which browser you want to use? So let's say I want to use Firefox. I have chosen Firefox, and then here you have to give the URL. Okay, the different URLs. Okay, whatever the URL means the application what you test. URL means the application what you test. Okay, so let's say I've given this URL. I'm going to give this is a sample URL. Okay, I can just paste it here. I'll just give you at the end of this session. One second. Okay, one second. Let it be. Okay, so this is the URL address which I'll share in some time. This is a browser I have chosen, Firefox. This is the URL or the application I want to record, and then all the other options we'll discuss later in our upcoming session. Just click on start recording. So when you click on start recording, what will happen is this browser will be launched with this given URL. What happens when you click on start recording? This browser Firefox will be launched with this given URL. Okay, so let me click on start recording. As soon as I click on start recording, now you will see the Mozilla Firefox being launched with the given URL. At the same time, you also see a movable window like this. See, a movable window. In this movable window, you see some number over here, which keeps on increasing. Okay, when it keeps on increasing, actually it's a good sign. What does that mean? It means that your tool is able to successfully record the application flow. When the number keeps on increasing, it's actually a good sign. We'll discuss again in detail. For now, it means that the tool is able to record the application successfully. Okay, then of course the application launched. Then you have different options over here like cancel recording, sorry, stop recording, pause recording, cancel recording. Okay, comment. Different options are there. We'll discuss all those options later. But for now, I'm going to tell these two options. What are the two options? These are the two options that I'm going to explain you. One is start transaction. The other one, which is currently disabled, is end transaction. The other one currently disabled is end transaction. Okay. So what do you mean by the start transaction? Or that means insert start transaction. Okay. This is insert end transaction. This is insert start transaction. What do you mean by this? These are very, very important. So whenever you are about to perform some action on the UI, let's say I want to log in next because the application is already launched. I want to log in now. Whatever the action that you are going to perform next, that the transaction name you have to enter by clicking here. So if you click on it, it says insert start transaction. So if I click on it, you have to give some name. What is the next action that I'm going to perform? Login. So you have to give the name. Let's say login. Click OK. When you click OK, then this end transaction will be enabled, but don't click it. So what you have to do before that? You have to manually go and perform the action whatever you want. So for whatever the transaction you started, whatever the action that you started login, just do it manually, for example. So here you enter username, password, and click on login button. Okay. Okay. Now the login is done. Now when the login is done, wait for 4 or 5 seconds or the page